Hi, welcome back to another edition of the Anahuna video series interviewing women leaders from the Middle East region. I'm here today with Maryam Hassani. Maryam Hassani is the co-founder and CEO of Zealous. She's at the forefront of AI native software development. She's also committed to leveling the playing field in technology, helping companies launch products quickly, cut costs, and maintain high-quality software as they grow. Alongside her work with Zealous, Maryam is also the head of trends and innovation at the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority. Thank you for being here with me today, Maryam.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I'd like for you to dive a little bit more into Zealous, which is a very interesting AI native software. And so I'd like, for you to begin by telling us a little bit about how you came up with the idea for Zealous.
Yeah, sure. So, initially we actually started off in the professional networking space. So we built two products in the space, myself and my co-founder. And it was almost a natural progression, having learned so much, talking to users, building products. We found ourselves in a very interesting position where, as a bootstrapped company, we essentially needed to figure out how can we meet the demands of iterating our product, creating new versions that are based on the feedback we're getting from our users, but also keeping our burn rate as low as possible, given that we were a bootstrapped company. So we didn't have the luxury of hiring, an army of developers. So it was out of that necessity that we developed an in-house AI code generation framework. So we use that framework to build our products. And in fact, we built two products using our framework. And that's when we realized one day on one of our very long calls, my co-founder and I thought to ourselves, I think we're really onto something, because how much would the company value being able to build products at a fraction of the speed and cost? And therefore that kind of put us on another direction, a pretty big pivot for Zealous to move from trying to commercialize our professional networking products into trying to commercialize our AI code generation and testing framework.
And, you mentioned that Zealous is in part looking at professional networking. And I know that you're very committed to leveling the playing field in this space in particular for women. So I'd like for you to describe a little bit about the landscape in the UAE and maybe more broadly in MENA for women entrepreneurs. You're a women entrepreneur yourself. How did you find entering the space, and do you see it maybe changing over time?
Yeah, so the reason why I was attracted to building or solving for problems in the professional networking space is because I realized there's so much value in an emerging tech ecosystem like the UAE, like the MENA region. And I thought to myself, how can we make the process of meeting people and staying connected more efficient and honestly less awkward for a lot of the people that are part of this ecosystem, and also leveraging all the potential opportunities that are coming into the region. So through visiting, visitors in the entrepreneurial space, people who come in for a lot of these events that are being hosted, on the global scale of events. And so that originally attracted me to the space. And I like to think that, we did our best to try and solve for the challenges there. There are obviously challenges to do with also, how people connect. It's a pretty complex topic that doesn't have a very clear answer, especially technologically. It's very much about how humans interact. You think about the cultural nuances, you think about the density of tech talent and how that comes into play, the ability to know where to find the people you're looking for, and so on. But I think, myself and my co-founder, we sort of had to take a bit of a realization and a step forward in this pivot to ask ourselves, yes, we care a lot about the ecosystem and we're going to continue to support and help build, but we needed to find a more effective way to do so. And that essentially led us to, going full force with, okay, how can we make our AI framework ready for use and to help these entrepreneurs, women, aspiring founders to really ride the wave of the next wave of software development. And so just thinking more broadly about how the space is evolving, I really find that we're in a very interesting, time to be in the region. There is so much happening technologically across the world with the wave of AI, but also a lot of interest, support, investment going into the technology space. And I think it's just a matter of how can we create more successful stories. People want to look up to entrepreneurs, want to know that there's a viable and ambitious target to have within the space. What does this mean for them in terms of their, perhaps like comparing it to your traditional career path? I think there's a lot to be done in that sense. How can we set a clear path, one that can be essentially emulated, looked up towards, and also making sure the infrastructure is there for those perhaps founders who need a bit of more support or more community around them to really take that leap that they need to take.
Absolutely. And walk me through a little bit about how specifically Zealous facilitates this and how specifically maybe the AI software that Zealous uses. Just sort of break it down for someone who's maybe not familiar with the AI software like this.
Yeah, so in the space of AI code generation and testing, it's a very new space. I mean, the industry itself is evolving really rapidly. You heard Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, and also Jensen, the founder of NVIDIA, talking about there's going to be a future where 5 to 10 team people can build the next billion-dollar company, and that's only possible if we're able to leverage AI in software and building that company. So you're really seeing where the ambitious future trend is in the space. You no longer have to have an army of developers to create an amazing product. You no longer have to, have a huge team behind you and investment to be able to create a billion-dollar company. And so I think that's essentially our ambition. We're at the forefront of that change, that shift. And we're really excited to be part of it. I mean, we're learning every day, but we really and truly see the potential in this. I mean, being able to create a product in less than a week with just one developer is considerable when you think about how many interesting ideas there are out there to bring to life and how many problems that people need to solve for.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that it seems like the space is becoming more equitable because there's less obstacles and less barriers now to enter. You don't need to have super high, there is in essence a super high price for entry into the space, which, is great.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that the future we want to see, and maybe one that you see it on the internet a lot, is this the future where, you need no technical expertise or coding experience or as simply as writing a prompt that an app would be developed. But I mean, people who know the space or understand the technology, we know that it's not there yet. So we're very mindful of that, like where the technology is now, but we really truly see there's a lot of potential, even as it stands, and also banking on the fact that it's just going to get better with time through the LLM models, through all the, really big companies driving this forward and investment going into the space. So it's a matter of, I mean, our product is built for software developers, but imagine being able to 10x the productivity of a software developer and even, completely free up their development time for other things like solving complex problems as opposed to writing, repetitive code or minuscule code. So yeah, I mean, we're really excited about that shift of in the dynamics of how software is coming to be.
Absolutely. And then shifting a little bit, I'll go a little bit more broadly. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about in essence, the landscape for business and specifically for entrepreneurship in the UAE. In your opinion, what do you think makes the UAE such a unique landscape for women entrepreneurs and business? And what moreover, what lessons do you think that other MENA countries or potentially other countries in general can learn from the environment that they've created?
Yeah, I think for women, it's a very supportive environment. In fact, there's special attention, special support going into encouraging women to be part of the space, and they're definitely up for the task, and they have the determination and grit that you need to just go through this journey. I think it's difficult for any founder, honestly speaking. No matter your gender, it's definitely one of the harder career paths to take, but I would say the most rewarding. So building a product, building a startup in the UAE, I mean, there's a lot of, again, investment, incentive support that comes along with that, building, and obviously government's hand in creating these ecosystems for products to thrive, for companies and founders to thrive. I'm also, very happy to say it's also taking a bit of a wider approach to also thinking about the livability of the cities themselves, making UAE a place where you want to live, you want to raise your kids, you want to settle down. And we want to attract, I think, those kind of founders. Those are the kind of founders you want to attract, because you start to see sort of recycling effect, a ripple effect of just having them in the space, them giving back into the ecosystem, helping the next generation of founders. It's very much, I think a spark is needed to kind of start the ecosystem, like you see, or you would have seen in Silicon Valley, for example. And it's really also banking on diversity. I think diversity is a very, a very major point here, where, I mean, with the UAE and 200 nationalities, you compare that to, Silicon Valley, which is also very diverse. I think they have around 70% in the diversity index. And the studies are very clear. Diverse companies and teams can be up to like 20% more productive. And so I really think that all these factors come into play, the infrastructure, the incentives, the livability, and then also the very focused support for startups when it comes to, obviously, investment, access to market are two of the most important things you need to have a successful startup and product in the market. And then on top of that, the opportunities when it comes to diversity, ease of setting up a business, having the right talent you need to attract, and making it easy for them to even relocate to the UAE if needed. I think all of these different factors play a role in just making the UAE more attractive for founders, for talent, and for companies to set up.
And then thank you for that. That was, really, I have a great holistic understanding of now the sort of ecosystem for not only entrepreneurs, but for businesses in general, and how the UAE is taking a holistic approach to that. I think the last question that I have for you is quite broad, so feel free to take it in any direction that you like, but I'd like to ask a bit more broadly about gender equality in the UAE. You see that they've made great strides recently with women like yourself in the highest levels of the private sector and government. So what do you see as sort of the biggest challenge, given all this progress that has been made for women in the UAE currently, and how specifically do you see the role of technology in overcoming or facilitating more progress in this sense?
So I think technology definitely plays a major role in just making the process more frictionless for women, make it more accessible. But I think one of the very important lessons we learned in the professional networking space when we were still building products in that space is that it's also the nuances, the cultural nuances, let's say, that perhaps you see women not being able to have the same opportunities just because it doesn't feel very comfortable, to go to every event, to introduce yourself to every person, to really take that front very direct approach to things. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think our job and the ecosystem players' jobs are to make that environment more inclusive, and to take into account that not everyone feels comfortable doing or being so direct in their approach. And that's part of what makes our ecosystem unique as well. I mean, in the US, you might think, to get what you to get ahead, and there's a certain, you know, perception that you need to be outgoing and you need to be having, you know, perhaps what they call hustle and so on. But I don't believe that that applies to every single situation. Yes, you need to be determined. You need to have grit. And for women especially, I think they do have that, and we do, you know, come to show that we don't give up easily, and we really take things all the way. But I think, again, it's just a matter of technology, policies, incentives, taking into account that women may need a certain different type of support, and a lot of the difficulties might not be very, you know, forward facing or in the spotlight, but I think they are more underlining and below the surface.
Thank you for your time today and for introducing us to Zealous, to the landscape of AI and emerging technologies in the Middle East, and specifically how these can be used to facilitate women's entry into entrepreneurship and gender equality at large. Thank you again for taking the time to chat with me today, Maryam. It's been wonderful to hear about this.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.